You don't actually want to disappear. You want everything to stop asking things from you at the same time. But disappearing sounds cleaner than saying, I'm overwhelmed, resentful, exhausted, and quietly done holding my life together the way it's currently constructed. Before you sit there pretending this is just an interesting psychological idea and not something you've thought about in the shower, at red lights, or right before falling asleep, do the ritual. Like the video. Subscribe. Comment something like, wow, okay. Share it with someone who jokes about running away like it's a personality trait. There. Now we can stop lying politely. Let's be very clear about what this fantasy is not. It's not a death wish. It's not a dramatic cry for help. It's not even despair in the way people usually imagine despair. It's a pressure release fantasy. When you imagine disappearing, you're not imagining pain. You're not imagining chaos. You're not imagining consequences. You're imagining quiet. No notifications, no expectations, no responsibilities that didn't ask for your consent, no explaining, no managing reactions, no being perceived, just silence. That alone should tell you everything. You don't want to stop existing. You want to stop being required, because right now everything requires something from you. Your job requires output. Your relationships require emotional regulation. Your family requires reliability. Your friends require availability. Your own life requires decisions you don't feel resourced to make. You are constantly needed, referenced, adjusted, and expected to respond. And none of that shuts off at the same time. So when your nervous system reaches capacity, it looks for the fastest possible exit. Not change, not growth, not healing, absence. Because absence solves everything instantly. If you're not there, no one can ask. If you're not there, no one can expect. If you're not there, no one can be disappointed. If you're not there, nothing needs to be managed. That's the appeal. Disappearing is not about wanting a different life. It's about wanting the current one to stop touching you. And that distinction matters, because if you wanted a different life, you'd have to want something. You'd have to name desires. You'd have to tolerate dissatisfaction. You'd have to risk choosing and being wrong. Disappearing avoids all of that. It's the fantasy of zero friction. No conversations and no transitions, no fallout, no guilt. Just gone. That fantasy usually shows up when you feel trapped inside an identity you didn't consciously choose. The responsible one, the stable one, the capable one, the strong one, the easy one, the one who doesn't need much, the one who has it together. Those identities don't come with applause. They come with maintenance costs. You don't get to change much without destabilizing the system that depends on you staying the same. So instead of imagining change, which feels disruptive, selfish, risky, you imagine absence. If you weren't there, the pressure would finally stop. No one would need you to keep being that version. That's not selfish. That's fatigue, a very specific kind of fatigue. Not physical, not even emotional. Existential fatigue. You're tired of managing yourself, tired of monitoring your tone, tired of choosing the right words, tired of anticipating reactions, tired of carrying emotional weight you never agreed to carry but somehow inherited, tired of being the one who adapts so things don't fall apart. You're tired of being on, so your mind reaches for the only state where on doesn't exist. Off. Disappearing doesn't require effort. It doesn't require courage. It doesn't require explanation. It requires surrender. And surrender feels merciful when effort hasn't been rewarded with relief. There's another layer people don't like talking about. Changing your life would require you to want something. Not abstract wanting, specific wanting. I want less of this. I want more of that. I don't want to keep doing this. Those sentences are dangerous when you've learned that wanting leads to disappointment, conflict, or rejection. Wanting creates vulnerability. Wanting creates stakes. Wanting creates the possibility that you'll try and fail. Disappearing avoids desire entirely. If you're not there, you don't have to want. You don't have to choose. You don't have to risk being wrong. You don't have to face the gap between the life you're living and the life you vaguely imagine. But don't let yourself articulate. So your system chooses numb relief over uncertain effort. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you human under sustained pressure. There's also a control element hiding underneath this fantasy. Right now, you don't feel in control of your life. Too many demands, too many roles, too many expectations pulling you in opposite directions. You're constantly adjusting yourself to meet external needs. Disappearing restores control instantly. No negotiations, no compromises, no emotional labor. You don't have to say no. You don't have to assert boundaries. You don't have to explain your limits. You're just not there. For someone who feels constantly over-adjusted, that feels like freedom. Here's a harder truth. Sometimes disappearing feels safer than changing because changing might hurt people. If you stop being available, someone might struggle. If you stop over-functioning, someone might be disappointed. If you stop being who you've been, someone might feel abandoned or angry. You don't want to be the villain in anyone's story. So instead of imagining a change that creates visible ripples, you imagine a disappearance that removes you from the equation entirely. No one can blame you if you're gone. They can only miss you, or not. Either way, the confrontation never happens. You don't want to blow up your life. You want to step out of it quietly without making a mess. But life doesn't really allow clean exits like that. So the fantasy stays a fantasy. And the more stuck you feel, the more seductive it becomes. Because disappearing promises something change hasn't delivered yet. Silence. No opinions. No feedback. No judgment. No pressure to perform. No need to justify your existence. Just stillness. But let's slow this down even more. Notice when the fantasy shows up. It doesn't usually appear when you're deeply engaged or fulfilled. It shows up when you feel cornered, when too many things feel non-negotiable, when you've been adapting for too long without recalibration. It shows up when your life feels like something you're maintaining rather than inhabiting. Maintenance is exhausting because it never ends. There's no completion, no arrival, no moment where you're done, just upkeep. And when everything feels like upkeep, your mind searches for a way to stop the cycle entirely. Not improve it, not optimize it, end it. That's why disappearing feels so appealing. It's not about escape, it's about termination of demand, another uncomfortable layer. You might fantasize about disappearing because you don't know who you are without the roles you play. Caretaker, mediator, achiever, support system. Reliable one. Those roles give you identity. They tell you who you are. They justify your presence. But they also consume you. And when you imagine disappearing, you're also imagining relief from having to be someone. No roles, no performance, no expectations, just existing without explanation. That's not nihilism. That's exhaustion from identity maintenance. You've been someone for so long that you don't remember what it feels like to be unassigned. So your fantasy isn't about death. It's about anonymity, being unneeded, unseen, unreferenced. That's the piece you're imagining. Another thing worth naming, disappearing feels appealing because it's final. There's something comforting about finality when you're stuck in endless indecision. No more weighing options, no more second guessing, no more wondering if you chose wrong. Finality removes choice, and choice feels heavy when every option feels wrong. So your mind reaches for the only scenario where choice disappears entirely, absence. You're not suicidal. You're overwhelmed by agency without alignment. You have too many choices that don't feel like real choices. Too many obligations disguised as decisions. Too many paths that don't feel like yours. So the fantasy removes the whole problem. No self, no choice, no pressure. Here's the part you probably don't want to hear. The urge to disappear is not a solution. It's a diagnostic signal. It shows up when your internal load exceeds what your current structure can hold, when you're giving more than you're choosing, when you're adapting more than you're expressing, when you're performing more than you're living. It means too much of you is allocated to maintenance and not enough to agency. You're surviving your days instead of inhabiting them. And because you don't see a clean way to change that without destabilizing everything, your mind reaches for the cleanest image it has access to: vanishing. Notice something important. You rarely fantasize about rebuilding. You don't imagine starting over with effort and intention. You don't imagine the work of change. You imagine stopping. That tells you this isn't about adventure. It's about relief. You're not bored. You're overloaded. You're not ungrateful. You're overextended. You're not broken. You're depleted in ways rest alone doesn't fix. Because rest pauses obligation. It doesn't remove it. And what you want is not a break. It's freedom from being constantly needed. Here's the clarity, without motivation or pep talks. You fantasize about disappearing because your life doesn't currently feel like it belongs to you. It feels like something you're managing, maintaining, enduring, not something you're actively choosing. And disappearing feels like the only way to stop choosing wrong over and over again. This doesn't mean you actually want to leave everything. It doesn't mean you want to hurt anyone. It doesn't mean you want to stop living. It means something in your life is asking more than it's giving, and you don't feel allowed to renegotiate it. So your mind reaches for the most merciful image it can find: absence. You're not dramatic for thinking this. You're not broken. You're not ungrateful. You're responding to a system that's been asking too much without recalibration. And until your life makes room for you as a person, not just a function, the fantasy of disappearing will keep showing up as imagined mercy, not encouragement, not advice, not a call to action, just the truth behind the thought you keep scaring yourself with.